In this video, we're going to go over the initial stages of drawing the face based on the skull and tissue depth markers and everything. Now, what you see here is my setup in Photoshop, and we'll talk about this as well, how to organize things. But what you'll see is different between mine and yours is that I'm using, well, first of all, a different skull. But it is from an older case where I was not using the table of summarized tissue depths. Rather, it was a unique table for the age, sex, and ancestry of this individual. So you can see the positions are slightly different, and the way they're organized is slightly different. But that shouldn't stand in our way here. We'll still be able to do the drawing. Mine will be based on slightly different tissue depth markers than yours, but just take what I'm talking about and apply it to your case. Informed by this, but also the readings we've done in class and talked about in our seminar series. So you can see over here I've got the layers palette open. I've got the side view of the skull on its own layer, the front view here, and like I said in the primer video, I've got the measurements, a couple of layers for recording measurements. I've got a couple layers for sketches, and then a couple layers for the front. Now, I haven't named this one in the top, still called layer 4. If you want to rename a layer, you just double click on the name and type it in, final side. Now, I don't want to deal with these final ones right now. I might do some sketching, so I'll leave those open. But these these images of the skull, they're actually already calibrated. You should have done that already from the previous video. So I'm just going to lock these ones down. So select the layer and press this lock button up here in the layers palette. If you don't have the layers palette open, just remember you can go into under window layers. So I'm going to work on the front view first, but eventually you'll be jumping back and forth. Your layout will also be a little bit different than mine. Your skull will be a little bit smaller, I think, in the way that we're working with it now, and your side view won't be so close to the edge. You'll have more room to work in yours. Mine is a little bit crowded, but I'm going to start working in the front view, but some of the measurements I make in the front view will influence the measurements I make in the side and vice versa. So we'll be jumping back and forth, but let me just turn off the side view for now. This front view is pretty, it's a high contrast visual image here, so I can unlock it, and up here under opacity I can just turn this down a little bit, or open this up for the slider, just so I can concentrate on the drawing rather than the image underneath it. So I'm not going to do any measurements for this part. I just want to talk about drawing. You can see it's not allowing me to draw right now because I'm on a locked layer. So I'm not going to go to measurements front. I'm going to go to sketch front right now because I'm going to do some sketching. So for this, I want to use my brush tool here in the tools palette again. If you don't see that, window, tools. If you don't see this one here, which is called the navigator, window, navigator, and that helps us move around the shot, the image. So I think I have my brush set up. That's not quite what I want. I'm going to change my brush by going into my brush settings. The shape dynamics are based on pen pressure, but I also want to change transfer to be based on pen pressure. All that means is that if I press lightly, I'll get a very light image. If I press heavily, I'll get a darker line. I just want to work sketchily right now. So I'm just doing the outline, and you probably have some more markers than I do up here that will guide how you go around the head, but you can see I'm just roughly sketching around, following the shape of the skull when I don't have any information. Now here we've got the mid-ramus marker. This is a little anterior to gonion and zygion here. So I'm going to go down to gonion and bring it over. Now you will have a mid-zygomatic, that's right, mid-mandibular border marker, I think it's called. And so that will inform how thick the tissue should be here. So you can see I'm being rough. I'm not trying to worry too much about the quality of my line work. I just want to get the shapes in. If I want to rotate the image around, I can hold down R and release it, and that just gives me some freedom to naturally follow my wrist movements rather than have to sort of contort my hand around to make the lines that I want. I can hold down Shift to lock it to one of the cardinal directions. And there I've done my outline. Now you feel free to, you can put these things on different layers if you want, your nose drawing and things like that, but it'd probably be okay just to keep everything on single drawing. So that's my sketch layer. If I want to do the same thing in the side view, things are a little trickier here. Now I don't want to do it on the same layer, but let me turn off sketch front. See, I drew it on the wrong layer. So I'll change this the name of this. Did that on purpose to prove a point. I didn't really. You just have to always be careful of what layer you're on. Excuse me. Let's change these around. I'm going to lock these two measurements layers because I'm not using them right now. Turn off sketch front, go to sketch side. I want to zoom in a little bit. I'm not really too worried about the back of the head. But what can I sketch here? Well, I can maybe sketch in here. You don't have this marker on yours. That's Super Glabella. That's an old marker we used to use. Going down to glabella and nasion. And here, you're going to have a mid-nasal to guide you. I don't have anything, so I'm just following the shape of the bone. I get to this point, and I need to do my measurements for the nose, and we'll do that in another tutorial. Get down here, and I need to do my measurements for the mouth. I'll do that in another tutorial. Some of this stuff, though, will... Again, this is a little bit different than yours, but the principles stay the same. You want to draw to the end of your tissue depth markers. I've got these little black balls on mine to sort of help see them a little bit more. And again, I don't really have any information here, so I can just sort of trail off like that. Later on, we'll look at, filling in sort of a rough approximation of under the mandible and how to draw the neck. Just going to erase this for now. While I'm at it, I might just draw around the skull or the cranium. Again, I think you've got a marker at vertex that will give you some information about the thickness here. Not really that crucial for the facial approximation, but you are modeling the entire head going all the way around. Holding down spacebar when I'm zoomed in and just dragging around so I can move around my scene. And again, we don't have any information here, so I'm just roughing in the back of the neck. And so if we look here and here, I can double check and make sure I'm doing things correctly. You can see things don't quite line up here, so I might go to sketch front, fix this up so the top of the head in the same position on both drawings. Down here, bottom of the chin, that's pretty good. So there we go, we've drawn, started to draw the outline. We've got the front and the side. Now we've got to go in and do some measurements for the nose, the mouth, and the eye, and draw those in, and we'll come back with more videos for that.